India's former foreign minister and veteran Bharatiya Janata Party leader Sushma Swaraj passed away at the age of 67 last night. She was admitted to Delhi's AIIMS after she suffered a heart attack. Leaders across the political spectrum paid their respects to Sushma Swaraj, whom many called the People's Minister. Currently, the mortal remains of the veteran leader are at the BJP headquarters in New Delhi. Hundreds of party workers and leaders flocked to the office to pay their final respects to their beloved leader. The mortal remains will remain at the headquarters for a short while, after which the final rites will be performed at the Lodhi crematorium. Sushma Swaraj served as External Affairs Minister during the 2014 to 2019 term of Prime Minister Modi. She also served as a minister under the former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Sushma Swaraj had a storied career. She also served as the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha during UPA 2. She had a slow but steady rise in politics. She was one of the youngest politicians to be sent to the assembly in the state of Haryana. Her family had a solid RSS background, but her tryst with politics started with socialist parties. Subsequently, she shifted to the BJP. Sushma, in her first avatar, was considered to be a conservative face of the party, but there was more to the woman than what the politics of her time wanted her to be. Yes, she created moments for the Indian right, but her independence as a leader was unquestioned. She enjoyed a great equation with leaders across the political spectrum. Sushma was the only politician who enjoyed a strong bond with the UPA chairperson, Sonia Gandhi. As we have been talking about her strong equation with leaders from the opposition party, Sushma Swaraj was also a great orator. Before being taken to AIIMS, she had tweeted about the historic decision of the passing of the bill to abrogate Article 370. On Tuesday evening, she was admitted to AIIMS. Senior BJP leaders rushed to the hospital, and it was announced that she had succumbed to the cardiac arrest that she had suffered. As we track those latest images of the final journey of the People's Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, let's also get in further perspectives now from Ambassador G. Parthasarathy joining us right here in the studios. Also joining us is Niels Ragnar Kamsvab, Norwegian ambassador, live from New Delhi. Coming to you first, Ambassador, if you were to look back at her storied career and the many facets to Sushma Swaraj, some of the moments that stand out for you.
Well, moments which stand out was when I first got together publicly with her when she visited Pakistan with a parliamentary delegation, and left the audience quite floored with her oratory and her ability to talk softly but firmly. Shortly thereafter, she became the INB minister and then later on Minister of Foreign Affairs. I think what I admired about her was there are now millions of Indians living abroad. Somehow or the other, there's a tendency to take them for granted and do very little for them. She was very aggressive and assertive in looking after their interests. Second, she had a humanitarian streak. I mean, we have unnecessary bureaucratic hold-ups when Pakistanis want to come for treatment for a specialist hospital here. And I know she has personally intervened in several cases, and therefore she's viewed everywhere as having a person with a human touch to diplomacy. And though it's my profession, I must say we could do with a bit more of a human touch. As for her conduct of foreign policy, she was firm, she was unyielding. On the one hand, she revived the India-Pakistan Joint Commission, which is a ministerial level commission, which I think is a good framework for talks, and but at the same time could act very, very tough on terrorism with them. There was no give on terrorism for her. So it was remarkable because the first time we exposed to the world that perhaps Indian ladies, if I may say, can be sometimes tougher than their men. That came through very clear in the promotion of India's interests. But as I said, she had a very deep humanitarian streak about her, which I admired. And whether in opposition or as a minister, she was fairly easy and relaxed to talk with.
Absolutely. Let me also get an ambassador comes back on that. We've been referring to her as a foreign minister with a difference, and for very good reason. We've been getting in several voices from across the world, sir, to share with us their thoughts, their perspectives on who Sushma Swaraj was and how she embodied what Ambassador Parthasarathy just said, the human touch, humanizing foreign policy, and that's something, one of the many facets to her that will always be remembered. Ambassador Kamspak, if my voice is going through to you?
No.
Yep, it is.
Yes, as I was asking you, sir, she's regarded as a foreign minister with a difference, and for the ways in which she touched the lives of millions, not just within India, but across the world as well. If you were to share with us some of your thoughts on this solemn day when India and people across the world bid goodbye to their beloved leader.
Well, I would say that what really struck you when you met her was her big heart, in the sense that she was very friendly, very good to get people to feel at ease in the meeting, and that would always set a very good atmosphere in the meeting. So I guess this is a bit of an illustration of her as the way she also comes across, I guess, to common Indians. And this was very much reflected in the meetings I participated in with her. In addition, of course, she had a very, very good grip of all the issues which we discussed.
Right. If you were to reflect also on some of the moments that you will always cherish and will always remember Sushma Swaraj for, we've been having voices from across the world, like we just discussed, share their perspectives and talk to us about how she was a leader who had touched the lives of many, not just within India, but across the world.
You know, what I think was most interesting with her, from our point of view, was this great ability to communicate with the Indians she had. The fact that she chose, instead of, for instance, filling her Twitter feed with statements on different issues, she became somebody the common Indian felt that they could go to if they had problem abroad, and that was a very novel way of operating, I think. And I think also, as far as I remember, that made the Foreign Policy magazine put her on the list of the 100 most innovative leaders.
And would you agree that it is a very important aspect when it comes to foreign policy to try and make it about the people who matter and try and add that humanizing touch like she always did?
Well, I think not only for foreign policy, but I think it's a challenge for all politicians to feel that the government is not just a institution, but it actually consists of persons, and that there is somebody you can approach and talk to and actually will bring your issues forward. And I think she was very good at doing exactly that, and I think that was a very important innovation and something the rest of us could learn from.
All right, Ambassador Kamspak, appreciate very much your speaking with us here on Beyond World as One and sharing those perspectives. Also joining us on the broadcast is Lord Meghnad Desai, author and Professor Emeritus, London School of Economics, joining us live from London. Lord, if you can look back at the many facets to Sushma Swaraj, some of the moments that stand out for you during your interactions, or the manner in which She was rightly called the People's Minister, the manner in which she was round the clock, always available for the people of the country, and was just a tweet away.
Yes, I think but before we come to her stint as the foreign minister, we should remember that as information and broadcasting minister, she was the one who made the crucial change to the status of the Hindi film industry, Indian film industry, and allowed it to be able to borrow money from banks. They gave industry a proper recognition in law, and that transformed the financing of Indian film companies and eliminated all the gangsters who are involved in that. That has been forgotten, but we must remember that was a great contribution. Now, I got to know her in her capacity as a foreign minister because I was on the board of governors of Nalanda University, which came under the aegis of the foreign ministry, of the Ministry of External Affairs. And she was very, very careful and very considerate for the growth of that new university. We were founding a university. She had many meetings with us. And of course, she was herself a Sanskrit scholar. She was fluent in Sanskrit, and she was very appreciative of the contribution that a university like Nalanda could make, not only to knowledge, but to India's relations with Asian countries, because it was as part of the Asian summit, East Asian summit, that India had promised to revive the Nalanda University. She was very helpful and very good at shepherding us into the right direction, and always kind and considerate. And I think, having known her personally, I really think she's a very fine person.
Right, and Ambassador Parthasarathy, she was rightfully called also the super mom by a lot of international publications for this very aspect of always being available and always eager to help.
Yes, as I said, to me, I found the human touch coming in her dealing with the Indian diaspora abroad. As I said, that runs into millions. I think there are about 3 million already in the United States alone, not to speak of elsewhere in the world like Mauritius, where there are a majority. She was able to relate to them. And she was able to convey that, look, it's not just ancient links that link us, cultural links that link us, but as human beings living so far apart but yet sharing so much in common, how can we make the best of it? And this Pravasi Bharati Divas, which was celebrated every year for the non-resident Indians or people of Indian origin, I think has had its impact. That, together with the fact that we now have them with overseas citizens of India, passports which enable them to work in visa India, acquire a PAN card and acquire properties in India. I think that's, we have not yet fully accessed the potential of our population living abroad.
Right.
And if you go to the UK, you have some of them as senior cabinet ministers. That holds true in Canada also.
Yes.
Mauritius, of course, it goes without saying. And now in the United States. In the United States, not only do our Indians the chief executives of big companies like Facebook and so on, but also they are getting political, as you would see from Kamala Harris,
of course,
seeking a nomination of the Democratic Party to be president. Now, they are an asset for our foreign policy. And Sushma Swaraj was able to convey to them that, yes, you owe your loyalty to whichever country you're a citizenship of, but spiritually, culturally, and emotionally, there are bonds with India which need to be strengthened. Yes, your relations with Donald Trump's America may go up and down, your relationship with some other neighbors go up and down, with the Chinese they go up and down. But if you have a stabilizing influence like the Indian community in the United States, it serves to moderate both sides on how they deal with each other. And she was an expert on that.
Right.
And finally, the human touch. As I said, I'll never forget that Pakistani family with a child requiring urgent surgery waiting to get a visa and cleared by the Ministry of Home Affairs. For God's sake, a child of 2 years old, less than 2 years old, accompanied by her parents, can hardly compromise Indian national security. But that's how all systems work. And a direct intervention by the External Affairs Minister telling the other guys, lay off, I'm clearing this.
Leaving no stone unturned to try and help out the people of the country in
for a human
any way
touch
possible.
to foreign policy.
Yes. And who can ever forget her great speeches both within Parliament and outside. We're going to leave it there for the moment, though. Ambassador Parthasarathi, Lord Meghna Desai, and also thanking the Norwegian ambassador who joined us earlier for all of those perspectives. Those are the latest images that we're now getting to you as we track the final journey of the former Foreign Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, as her mortal remains are now being taken to the Lodi crematorium for the last rites.
अरे उनको रोक रखो, गाड़ी आगे आने दो। अरे आप साइड हो जाओ भाई।
Sushma Swaraj, also called the People's Minister, whose death on Tuesday left not just India in grief, but we've been getting you voices from across the world who were touched in many ways by the minister's acts, sharing their perspectives on how this is a collective loss for those in India and for many across the world. Sushma Swaraj was admitted to Delhi's All India Institute of Medical Sciences last evening after she complained of chest pain. She suffered a heart attack, a cardiac arrest, and succumbed to it later in the night. She was 67 years old. Prime Minister Modi was among the first ones to express his condolences, calling it the end of a glorious chapter in Indian politics. Through last night and this morning and this afternoon, we've seen hundreds of leaders from across the political spectrum pay homage to the People's Minister. She had many facets to her, many avatars, one of them, of course, being that she was always available, always accessible for the people of the country. She was just a tweet away, for example, when she was the foreign minister. And that was a quality that, one of the many qualities that will always be remembered and stay with the people of India.